Hello, I'm Richard Chambers, Senior Internal Audit Advisor for Audit Board, and welcome to another in my continuing series where I talk with leading internal audit, risk management, and compliance practitioners from around the world on the state of change and how our professions can drive change in organizations. I'm joined today by a colleague that I've known for a number of years, David Hill. David is the CEO of SWAP Internal Audit Services. David has more than 30 years of experience in the audit profession, and he's now leveraging his knowledge and expertise to lead an entire organization of audit professionals that serves public sector organizations across the southwestern portion of the UK. David, thank you for joining me today. It's great to have you with me. So happy to be able to sit down and talk with you about a topic that I know is near and dear to both of us, and that's just kind of the dynamic nature of change that organizations face.
It is. Delighted to be here, Richard. And we are in a very changing world. We have been for the last 2 to 3 years. Yeah. But I think when I picked up your book, Agents of Change, that really shone light in my eyes in terms of where we need to go as a profession, and we've made some huge advancements with SWAP moving forward.
Yeah. Well, you kind of touched on it there, David. You know, if I think about the last 2 years, 3 years in particular, I don't recall any period in my career that has ever, where we've ever faced as many new and emerging risks that seemingly just shoot in from the periphery without any warning. Here today, gone tomorrow almost. Yes. And to be an auditor, an internal auditor who is, we're trained, we're schooled from the outset of our careers about the importance of being risk focused. That has to be an incredibly challenging environment for an internal auditor in 2022 to be able to maintain a risk-based focus when you don't know what tomorrow's risks are going to be.
Yeah, you don't, and that's why you have to be very agile in your approach. You know, you have to be willing to transform organisations and not just stand there and just deliver an agreed plan in advance. You've got to have that agility to move and respond. The risks are changing so quickly, as you quite rightly said. You know, so we at SWAP really promote quarterly planning and agile planning. We really put aside 12 months plan now or 3-year plans. Right. So that's part of our agility moving forward, so we can respond in time to the risks as they appear.
Right. So change is a word that we've already bantered back and forth here 4 or 5 times, and we've only a couple of minutes into this discussion. Yeah. I think change is I don't like to be cliche, but it's the new normal. You know, if we have any hope that we're just going to return back to a period of predictable stability, I think we're fooling ourselves. So to be able to operate in this environment, we have to be comfortable with change. Wouldn't you agree?
We do, and that's not easy for lots of people. It's not been easy for the organisations we serve in particular. So we've had to work really hard in changing our perspective of what a good internal audit service looks like. Mm-hmm. And that Agents of Change, I think, has really allowed us to be able to, introduce new methodologies like one-page reporting, no longer producing 38-page reports that take an age to clear and a bottleneck by narrative rather than the issues. Right. So we've done a lot of changes in that area, and it will continue. It will continue.
Well, I as you know, my background, I spent 26 years in the public sector, and the one thing, and the men and women in the public sector will have my enduring admiration, but the one thing that I found, especially over the years as I've been able to compare and contrast, is that they tend to be a bit more traditional, a bit more conservative, and maybe aren't as anxious to charge out and pull in and embrace new ways of doing things and new ideas. Is that fair? Do you encounter that here as well?
I think that is fair. I think auditors are traditionally risk-averse individuals anyway. And I think in the public sector, they've always been, again, risk-averse. Mm-hmm. So the two coming together doesn't help. So right. What I need to do as a leader of our organisation is I need to make change happen. Right. I need to make sure that we've just recently appointed a director of change. Mm-hmm. That was a drive to say we've got to change what we're doing. Right. We've got to be much more efficient at what we're doing. We've got to use, as you refer to it, capacity multipliers. We've got to look at technology and efficient processes and other staffing solutions. It can't all just be about the staff we've got in the team. Right. So, we've changed a lot.
You mentioned my book, Agents of Change. Yep. As you recall in there, I define a change agent in internal audit as a catalyst, someone who's a catalyst for great ideas that will help not only protect value for the organization, but to create value. Does that resonate with you as far as the role of an internal audit function in this day and age?
It absolutely does. And I think one of the things that are challenging, particularly serving the public sector, is some of the measures that internal audit is squared up against. They tend to be quantitative measures rather than qualitative. So we've got to somehow get the measures that actually drive and demonstrate the value we're adding, rather than the fact we've delivered so many audits as against our agreed 12-month plan. So that's hard work, particularly with audit committee members. They're used to having a traditional internal audit service, and to change them to one-page reporting and dashboard reporting, which we're moving into. It's a big change, and it takes some acceptance. It takes some hard work. It just doesn't happen overnight.
So that was kind of my follow-on question. I think you've touched on it already, but how receptive do you find? You mentioned boards, but also management in the organizations and entities that you work with. How receptive are they to this idea of the internal auditors promoting change? They've been accustomed to us coming in and saying, okay, this is what we found, this wasn't done correctly, here's how you need to change it. But the kind of change that we're talking about is more transformational. How comfortable are they with internal auditors doing that?
It's happening. I would say it's happening, and I think remote working has helped. A more agile approach has helped. Particularly the agile approach, where we're working much more in collaboration with each of our auditees or customers, if you like. Yeah. So we've actually found that change not as hard as I thought it was going to be, but it's just putting something different out there. Right. And in fairness to audit committees and management teams, they've only had what they've been offered, if that makes sense. So you have to change the offering, and that's what we've done. And in most cases, it's been embraced. Right. And of course, sorry, Richard, the other thing is that they've had to change as organisations themselves. With remote working and doing things in different ways. So the two coming together has actually been quite helpful. Yeah,
there's no place in the world today for change resistance, because it's going to overwhelm you. So you better embrace it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So if I were to expand on the path we've been going down here, one of the things that I assert in the book is, we've got to be more comfortable in changing ourselves if we're going to be seen as real change agents in the organizations we serve. I think you have already. I mean, the fact you've got a director of change is kind of awe-inspiring in this conversation. But from your standpoint, how have you driven change in SWAP that is demonstrable to the clients? I mean, what are they seeing that you and your team are doing that would make them comfortable that you really are agents of change?
I think the change has come about because we are working much more in collaboration. It's not them and us, it's a collaboration. So when we kick off an audit that's in the plan, or maybe just agreed because we need to respond to risks, it's a very much collaborative approach. So we're talking up front what data we've got, what insights have you got yourself that you can help with us. It's not them and us anymore, it's much more us and a partnership. And I think that's really important. Excuse me.
Right. Well, I think that's part of the name, right?
Absolutely.
Southwest Audit Partnership.
Yeah, it is. Very good, Richard.
Well, let me go one step further. So it's also tough to be agents of change if no one understands what you do. And as I say in the book, secret agents can't be change agents. Yeah. So what do you do to promote the kind of potential and the kinds of solutions that you and your team deliver?
We've done quite a lot of stuff. I said earlier on in the conversation that you have to be prepared to put the effort into to make those changes, and you almost have to be a bit of a salesman, and you almost have to explain how bad it was before, how we used to do things. So our measurements, I talked about it before, but our measurements are always quantitative, and they were the wrong measures. So moving away from that, as I said, adding value, demonstrating value, demonstrating you can do more with less, and I think that's a really important factor as well. Because we're using new technologies, we're doing more than we ever did before with the same or less resource. Right. So there's all those things that add to making you become a valued proposition moving forward.
Wow. You mentioned technology.
Yep.
It's as you quoted my capacity multiplier term. It's the great capacity multiplier, because we have limited capacity almost by definition I've had teams of 1,000 auditors, and I still didn't feel like I had enough. So we always have constraints on our capacity, but use of technology can expand that.
Yep.
Are there ways that you've done that, or ways you're planning to that you know, are noteworthy?
Yep, we've just this last week signed a new GRC solution,
Okay.
so we've moved on. That's probably at 4 times expenditure previously, so we've invested in technology. We're moving away from planning audits in days. We're planning it by financial budget, so that the cost of the technology or other solutions form part of that package.
Right.
And in some respects, we're even moving away from budgets. We've got one part now where we're just saying, let's see where the audit takes us. When it stops creating value, that's the point we'll stop. So really, it brings all your 3 books into change. If you bring in speed of risk, trusted advisor, agents of change, all of them have got to us where the point where we need to be, where I'm feeling that we're making some sense to our customers, rather than just being a delivery partner. We're making sense and affecting change.
Yeah.
So it's really important, all technology and all the other stuff we're using.
Yeah, I agree. One of the things as I've observed you from a distance is I see you as someone who fully appreciates that talent is your most valuable asset as a CEO or an audit leader. We went out before we wrote the book, Agents of Change. We went out and surveyed more than 600 chief audit executives from around the world, and we asked them, what does it take to be a change agent? What is it? What are the skills and the attributes that lead to success as a change agent? And they came back with 4 broad categories. First, that a change agent has to have business acumen, has to understand the company, the industry, the business, has to truly have a business mindset.
Yeah.
Second, that they have to have a strategic mindset. They have to recognize that there is a destination and that there are multiple paths to get there, and strategically, how do you do that? Third is that they're relationship centric, that they build and sustain relationships that engender trust. And then finally, that they're innovative, that they aren't just wed to the way we've always done it is how we need to do it. So of those 4 things, business acumen, strategic mindset, relationship centric, and innovative, did we miss anything?
I think those 4 are probably spot on, if I'm honest. But I think there's something around passion for the profession.
Yeah.
I think if you're really passionate and people can see you're passionate about what you're trying to achieve, our company motto is helping organisations succeed. And if you truly believe that and you demonstrate that passion and wear it on your sleeve,
Right.
that's another area I think is really important.
Right.
I've seen too many audit teams where there's just no passion.
Right.
They're just doing a job, and that's nowadays not good enough.
No, it's not. It's hard to inspire others to change if you're not inspiring.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, last question for you. Looking ahead, putting a crystal ball out there in front of you, what do you think the profession might look like in the next few years, and what do you think is the most important thing that we get right?
Technology. I think it's embracing technology. For me, there's process mapping. There's all these new technology, some not even so new, but we're still not using. So we really need to embrace technology. As you said, it's the capacity multipliers. How can we do something and actually give our customers a much better service and give them greater assurance? So I think it's technology, but I think the one area where we've got to be really careful is retention and recruitment. Both those areas, I think, are problems. They're problems now. I think they're problems in 10 years. Right. And I suppose for me, is it an auditor we need, or is it an order plus? We need people who can do analytics and shouldn't have to buy them in for the service. They should be capable of doing them. So skills have got to change as well as retention and recruitment.
Wow, I couldn't have said it better. David, thank you so much for joining me. I continue to be inspired by the work that you and your team is doing in SWAP, and I look forward to watching the journey as you guys pursue change agency here in the UK.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you.
Yeah.
Great.
And thank you for joining us as well. I'm Richard Chambers, Senior Internal Audit Advisor for Audit Board.